Time for the beaver or the melancholy. Love this little creature. The beaver, highly intelligent, lots of intellectual energies, highly independent, self motivated, not motivated by the stick or the carrot. They're motivated by what they desire to do. Some would even say that they like to march to the beat of their own drum, kind of in a rebellious nature. They are very often principled. They are studious, but they test and verify everything. Kind of a law enforcement mentality. They can be very heavy in the facts, but make no bones about this. This is a very complex, unique temperament, and I have high regard for the complexity of their mind. It's a constellation of intellectual capacity and energies, but there's strengths and there's weaknesses to that. You see, they're not social people. They're a little more independent, one-on-one. If you don't know them, they take a while to warm up, but once you're in their circle, you're there for life. They go very, very deep, but they're not people that get warm and friendly very easy. They tend to keep to themselves, and socialization drains their battery. They tend to be task oriented. They like to do the next thing, like building the beaver dam, next stick in place. And that's a very serious work that they do. They're intent on working with their mind and their hands. They don't like to talk much, except if you ask them to do a seminar on building a beaver dam, they can do it and have PowerPoint, technological intricacies. They actually read the manual and they make the manual. They're very intricate. They know all the nuance of all the little things, and they really get frustrated at people that don't. They're highly critical of the little things in themselves, and they're highly critical of little things in other people. If you have a friend that's a melancholy or a beaver, little things upset them and they'll keep score. They'll file it away. And in a time where they may be frustrated, they may pull that out and they'll cut you with that. They don't explode necessarily. They have what we call death by a thousand cuts. They can slowly let the air out of your tire while smiling at you, if you will. They do have a vengeance mindset about them. It doesn't mean that they're a mean person. They just have a scorecard. They don't forget things. One of the challenges of raising these temperaments is if they're kids, they're easily bruised. Loud noises and angry people can really disrupt the internal makeup that they have, where they could be quite easily traumatized. And so, parents of melancholy children, uh, it's not that you bubble wrap them, it's that you make sure you recognize your child as melancholy. So if you have a very private, serious, intellectual, I know this kind of describes just about every teenager out there, but go with me on this. You might have a melancholy teenager or child, and if you do, we parent them with care, because if you ever say a word that's harsh or critical to them, they'll never forget it, and it can forge their character and personality. So these folks work very hard to be in environments where there's no chaos. They need order, they need reliability, they need dependability, especially from people. They do not work well with others who don't say what they mean and mean what they say, but they do work well with others who are very reliable and dependable. These folks are your brain surgeons, your astronauts, the people that help the rockets launch, but they're also prone to spiral into anxiety and addictions and to dark moods called depressive behaviors because they're so intensely internal. They love to learn the nuance of the Bible. They love to read all of the prophecy, and they really lean into eschatology and end time things. They love to know the medical manuals and learn how the body works or the mind works. They are, again, highly intelligent. They just aren't the most warm, friendly people. They are a bit like Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory, or Spock, if you will. Some have asked if our melancholies autistic, and I don't believe they're autistic. They just might come off as that high left brain linear focused. That's kind of how they appear. Extremely loyal, extremely deep. They, in the area of affection, they're not the most expressive in the area of affection, but they say, I love you by fixing your sink, providing money, by being faithful. And I would say that when we teach the melancholy in affection, they need they question religious things. They question everything. They're not a follower of the herd. They are very independent, and they'll be very much in study about what they truly believe. But when they become a professor, they're hard to beat in an argument. But one of the characteristics that's amazing about them is how deep their emotions are, but rarely show at the surface. I say to them that they're 50 miles deep, and that their friends and family have to dig 50 miles down to get to that emotional place. So if you ever reject them, they're devastated 50 miles deep. They're that intense in the emotional area. So that is some of the characteristics of the melancholy or the beaver.